The sky above Varnak Prime had never seen a shadow like this. It began as a glimmer, just a distortion against the stars. Then, the light warped. A massive shape emerged from subspace like a silent god unfurling its wings, the Horizon Warden, a Titan-class human warship, black as the void and silent as judgment itself. The entire southern hemisphere paused. Air traffic stilled. Planetary defense grids activated without waiting for orders. High in the skies of the diplomatic capital Selvora, sensors overloaded as they tried and failed to calculate the ship's mass. It was miles long, a floating continent of alloy, light, and legends. And no one had called it. Inside the Council of Interstellar Harmony, the Krail Dominion ambassador, a spiked, amberite being named Evorin, slammed his claw on the table. This is a violation of treaty space. The Zenthari Confederacy delegate, Thalvi Yes, hissed in agreement. They haven't been seen in our quadrant for 2 centuries. Why now? Why, that? All heads turned to the projection hovering above them, a slow, panning visual of the Horizon Warden as it cast a crescent shadow across Varnak's atmosphere. The human seat at the council was empty. 200 years ago, humans had walked away from galactic politics. No one knew why. They had burned their embassies, closed their borders, and left a single cryptic message behind. We'll return when silence is broken. Be ready. No one had broken the silence. Not openly. But here the ship was. From the top of Selvora's skydome spire, Archivist Marin Vale, a neutral observer, adjusted her lens and locked it on the vessel's central hull. It bore no weapons ports. No lights. No insignia except a single word glowing faintly in ancient Terran script. Vengeance. She whispered to herself, this isn't a warship. It's a warning. All planetary channels cut to a live broadcast. The Horizon Warden remained still. That was the most terrifying part. Not a single communication. Not a flare. Not a scan. Just presence. Then it happened. A Krail defense drone, orbiting far above Varnak, glitched. Its primitive proximity warning mistook the ship's gravitational field for a targeting beam. Acting on ancient programming, it fired a low-energy plasma burst, not a weapon, more like a flare. But it touched the Horizon Warden's shield. A pulse rippled across the warship's armor. Light shimmered along ancient alloy. And then, the sky fractured. Not visually, but in gravity. The oceans below receded for a second, then crashed back with tsunami force. Moonlight twisted unnaturally. Small satellites disintegrated as invisible shockwaves tore through Varnak's upper atmosphere. Then, a single message beamed directly into every ship, station, mind, and device in the system. You touched the edge. Protocol V activated. Vacate orbit within 300 seconds. We won't repeat ourselves. Inside the council, chaos exploded. Ambassadors screamed into comlinks. Military fleets mobilized. Evacuation sirens wailed across orbital habitats. The Krail High Marshal barked, deploy our dreadnoughts, now. But they never launched. Because the Horizon Warden moved. Just slightly. A rotation of its central hull. One motion. That's all it took. Above the sky, Varnak's third moon shattered like glass. It didn't explode, it simply ceased to hold shape, collapsing into a fine ring of dust. No energy weapon was visible. No impact. Just consequences. Marin Vale stared at her screen as the celestial data updated in real time. They didn't fire anything, she whispered. They just reacted. In truth, the Horizon Warden had done what it was built for, automatic deterrence. Its AI wasn't conscious, just following an old directive. If fired upon, demonstrate proportional superiority to prevent escalation. What it calculated as proportional was the erasure of a moon. Silence gripped the galaxy. The Krail drone was gone. The council chamber emptied in minutes. Varnak's orbit, once a proud circle of diplomatic cruisers and observation platforms, was now barren. Every empire, every ambassador, every curious observer fled. Except Marin Vale. She stayed in the spire, watching. Recording. When the Horizon Warden finally spoke again, 2 hours later, it was just one sentence. We return when memory fades. This was a reminder. And then it vanished. No hyperspace trail. No energy signature. Just, gone. Weeks passed. Varnak declared its skies permanently closed to all warships. Bekrayal and Zenthari withdrew from treaty talks. A Cold War ignited, each side terrified the humans were watching. And in secret bunkers across a dozen worlds, defense ministers and strategists repeated one line over and over. One look, one move, limitless consequences. The ship floated alone at the edge of the rift of Halovar, a region of fractured space where time rippled unnaturally, where chronal storms howled across centuries. It looked like a derelict. Blackened hull. No lights. No beacons. No movement. Yet it dwarfed the alien research vessel Rex-2, whose crew stared at the colossal structure in awe and terror. Titan class, whispered Chief Archivist Drell Vox of the Lithuran Guild. His 6 eyes shimmered in violet amazement. Human origin. Model unknown. But, it shouldn't exist. Nothing human should, said his second-in-command, Kita 3, a synthetic intelligence encased in crystalline flesh. They vanished 500 cycles ago. Drell's voice trembled. Then why does it say this? He pointed to the image flickering on the screen. Along the Titan-class ship's side, just barely visible under layers of time-worn alloy, were words written in ancient Terran script. The paradox. And below that, do not touch. Inside the ship, it was deathly quiet. No atmosphere. No gravity. But not empty. Echoes walked the halls. They looked like humans, translucent, half-formed, out of sync with the present. Each repeated a task, touching consoles, arguing with unseen crew, crying in corners. Time loop ghosts. The Lithuran boarding team floated through the corridors, awed and disturbed. They passed one spectral woman caught forever in a scream. A child ran endlessly down the same 6 feet of hallway. A captain ordered evacuation, then reset. Kita 3 whispered, "These are imprints. Not holograms. Not memories. Actual pasts, replaying." It's a temporal stabilizer, Drell muttered. But stabilizing what? At the ship's heart, they found it. A chamber the size of a cathedral. Floating above its center was a pulsating orb of compressed light and gravitational distortion, surrounded by 6 golden rings, each spinning at inconsistent speeds. Engraved in every known galactic language, plus several unknown, were the same words. Do not move. Do not touch. Do not interfere. Drell's breath caught. This is the human paradox device. Kita frowned. My records hold only myths. It's not myth, he said, it's the last weapon of Earth. A ship designed not to fire, but to hold time together. If disturbed. But one of the newer interns, a young alien from the Outer Rim, didn't hear them in time. Fascinated by the strange orb, he reached out. His finger brushed the outer stabilizer ring. It moved. The lights in the room shifted from red to blue. The orb pulsed once, then fractured into 3 separate states at once. Time stuttered. Drell saw himself split, one version screaming, one frozen, one completely gone. Kita collapsed, her crystal core vibrating as decades of unused memory dumped into her instantaneously. Across the galaxy, reality shifted. On Xipheron 4, a warlord vanished in the middle of a speech and was replaced by a child. On Nex Prime, 2 suns became 3. A planet called Virones flickered in and out of existence, half remembered by those who'd never heard of it. Entire civilizations screamed as rewritten pasts collided with present truths. Back on the paradox, alarms flared not from the ship, but from the time stream itself. Drell clutched his head. We've unanchored cause and effect. We've damaged linearity. Kita tried to re-engage the stabilizer, But the control systems were too fragmented. Some were 300 years in the future. Others hadn't been built yet. Only one hope remained, a room labeled Command Resurrection Chamber. They ran. Time chased them, literally. Hallways bent, stretched, reversed. Drell aged 5 years in seconds, then regressed. Kita saw a version of herself killed, then kissed, by someone who never existed. They made it to the chamber. Inside was a single cryopod, frozen in a paradox-proof stasis bubble. Floating above it was a label. Commander Aaron Locke. Earth Naval Command. Temporal rank, Supreme Containment Authority. Beneath that, in bloody hand scratch. Don't wake her. Unless it's already too late. It was. They opened the pod. Aaron gasped to life, eyes glowing with something not quite human anymore. Status, she asked, already moving, already remembering. Drell fell to his knees. We broke the device. Aaron stared into the orb chamber, now pulsing with 3 timelines at war. She nodded. Then the final paradox must be triggered. What is it? She turned, expression cold. Me. She walked into the orb without hesitation. The ship screamed. The paradox pulsed once, then exploded in light, not matter. Time reversed, then snapped forward. Everywhere, reality recalibrated. On Xipheron 4, the child was now an emperor. On Nex Prime, the third son never existed, but memories of it haunted dreams. On Varnak, people spoke of a shadow that never came. And on the edge of Halovar Rift, the Titan-class ship was gone. Replaced by a single black box. Drell, alive again, now floating safely back aboard Athrex 2, opened the final message. One move was all it took. You got lucky. Next time, you won't remember. The Galactic Senate hadn't seen a full emergency session in over 80 years. Not since the collapse of the Roloth Star Bridge. But today, the chamber was filled with panic. A ship had arrived. A human ship. Not a scout. Not a rogue AI fragment. But a Titan-class warship, the likes of which had only existed in declassified war records and whispered rumors. It hadn't just entered galactic space, it had parked itself in high orbit above Senatus Prime, the very heart of the unified galactic authority. No warning. No negotiation. Just presence. Senator Vortalvesh of the Ornaxi High Cluster slammed his tendrils on the diplomatic table. This is an outrage. Earth was marked extinct in cycle 902. This violates every boundary set by the Galactic Compact. Senator Dren of Silvara, an elder species that had once fought the humans centuries ago, narrowed his glowing eyes. If that's really a Titan-class vessel, he whispered, then this isn't a violation, it's a reckoning. Above them, the holoscreen zoomed in on the ship's hull. Black. Monolithic. Covered in strange runes and defensive plating thicker than most capital ships. One word glowed across its front in searing white. Redemption. No communication had come from the ship. But then, precisely at the 30-minute mark after arrival, every screen, comms relay, and neural uplink across the Senate flickered, then displayed the face of a being none recognized. It looked human, but something in its eyes was ancient, augmented, fused with command. You violated the accord, it said calmly. The last protocol has been engaged. You have 30 cycles to prepare. This is not a war. This is an audit of respect. Shock spread like wildfire. The accord was a myth, a forgotten treaty supposedly made with the humans after the Orion conflagration. It was rumored to have said, if humanity is ever threatened, disrespected, or deceived again, a final automated response would be triggered. No one had believed it was real. But the ultimatum protocol was more than real. It was moving. On the outer rim world of WarHFY, a mining colony erupted in light as something buried beneath its surface for centuries activated, a nanocore the size of a mountain, humming with energy not seen since pre-human galactic war. On Delta Seraph, a human-formed satellite blinked to life and began transmitting warning signals in a language long dead, ancient Terran military command code. On a dozen planets, forgotten vaults hidden in crusts, oceans, gas giants opened. Within them, humanity's ancient seeds of retribution. Devices. Viruses. AI minds frozen in stasis, waiting for a simple trigger. The protocol. In the Senate, chaos reigned. "What does it want?" one senator screamed. Ambassador Dren stood slowly, voice low. "It doesn't want anything. It's not even here to negotiate. This ship, this redemption, was sent long ago. The protocol was embedded centuries before we were born. Then we destroy it," shouted Talvesh. "Target it now." Mistake. A single interceptor launched. One move. The redemption didn't fire a weapon. It simply blinked. For 0.2 seconds, its external layer shifted. Every orbital defense satellite around Senatus Prime ceased to exist. No explosions. No light. Just absence. And then a new message broadcast, but this time, it was shorter. One move acknowledged. Escalation authorized. Stand by. That's when the sky began to open. Tiers in space formed above 12 strategic systems. Each was a chronolock beacon, human relics designed to pierce timespace and override planetary defense protocols. On Nar Valas, oceans froze over in moments as nanotech spread through the air. On Kelros, AI constructs awoke, broadcasting human battle hymns as they hijacked every drone. On Core 9, a black sun formed in orbit, a weaponized gravity well designed to pause a system's time flow. And back on Senatus Prime, the senators watched helplessly. Not as their planet was attacked, but as every world that had ever signed the accord was now forced to kneel. Still, the redemption did not fire. It had no need to. The ultimatum protocol wasn't built to destroy enemies. It was built to remind them of a simple truth. Humanity does not bluff. In the Senate chamber, Dren looked around at the silent hall. He spoke softly. "We mocked them. We erased their history. We laughed at their primitive ways. And now, with one look, one move, they've reshaped the balance of power." A young Silveran senator asked, "Can we undo it?" Dren shook his head. "We made our move. And the consequences were limitless." The next day, a single human message was engraved in orbit above every major capital. "We are not your rulers. We are not your gods. We are your reflection, should you forget humility again. Earth does not seek to lead. But if provoked, Earth will remind."